Time to slide on those slippers because you're swimming through the card pool. I'm your host, Stu.
And I'm Kyle, and that was flippers, not slippers.
Yeah, it took me a couple tries, but today we are diving in at part 2 of our Hidden Gems section from Dark Ascension.
We are indeed, and as Stu mentioned, this is part 2 of our multi-part series looking at Dark Ascension. You can tune in next time for the money cards, or you can back it on up to see the first part of our Hidden Gems if you want to check out our previous video. But without further ado, let's dive right on into this week's review here.
At number 5.
All right.
So here, my card, again, this isn't something, again, this is the first thing I'm saying. I'm sorry about that. This card here is a creature. It is called Midnight Guard. It costs 3 mana, 2 generic, a white for a human soldier with a 2/3 body. And it reads, whenever another creature enters the battlefield, untap Midnight Guard. Now, this isn't a fancy, flashy card. It's a common. The only reason I'm really bringing this one up is because it's a card that combos out to go infinite, and it doesn't take much. It honestly just needs a little bit of green mana and a card called Presence of... What?
Gond.
Gond, yeah.
Yeah.
It's not God, it's not Bond, it's Gond.
And that's not even the only thing, Stu. There's actually plenty of cards that do kind of the same thing. I mean, there's also Elemental Mastery if you're playing in red.
I have no idea what that card even does.
It basically does the same thing, except you make more elemental tokens.
Oh, so it's just changing the type of token.
Pretty much, yeah.
Okay.
And it's maybe a little more powerful because it makes more than one at a time, but you know, it's the same basic thing. The idea is you combine this card with usually an aura that involves tapping to make a creature token, and there you go.
The way how it would stack out like that is you go ahead, you tap it, the token enters, then since it's entered, it goes ahead and untaps it.
Right.
So it just keeps going. It's inherently, you go as far as you want. You go infinitely. However, if you're at a tournament, you do not go infinitely because that'll get you disqualified. However, you can also save yourself since I'm a mathematician. It is actually not a number, and you have to declare a number. So you just say, hey, that's a theorem. I meant to do 9 million. Fun fact right there. But yeah, there's not much more with this card. It's great for token builds, depending on whatever build you're going for. Again, you need an aura, so probably something like Saram would even work with this. If there is a white aura that flows with this.
I don't know. I'd have to look into that.
I don't think there truly is, but I knew the one from green. So you now
there's
have Boros
definitely
as an
red
option,
too. Yeah.
which actually tokens exist in both those.
Oh yeah, definitely.
But without dwelling too much more on this, it's just something, this was originally printed in this set. This is my only chance to truly talk about it, so I wanted to take that moment.
Yeah, no, I didn't realize this was in this set either, and like, I don't know, I knew those cards could be comboed with, but I didn't know there was something like a common that made it that easy.
It was something severely overlooked. But moving on to your number 5, Kyle.
All right, well, my number 5 is going to be a bit more complicated. It's called Mystic Retrieval. And it's a sorcery and a blue one at that. It costs 4 to play, and it has a very simple ability here. Return target instant or sorcery card from your graveyard to your hand. Now, we see a ton of cards like this, so I'm going to get to the real value here, which is the fact that it has flashback. Actually, a red cost of flashback, so that's a little bit different. But also, note, its flashback costs 3 and not 4. So the flashback cost is actually less than the actual cost of the card, which is amazing.
You don't usually see that.
No, you really don't. Usually it's harder to flash something back, but the reason that's amazing is because this is, again, one of those cards like Increasing Ambition that we talked about in the last video. I would rather dump this into the grave and play it for flashback.
Especially if it's less.
Right, than play it for its actual cost. I mean, it's cool if you can do both, but if you have this early on in the game and you have something that lets you like discard and draw or something like that, feel free to get rid of this thing, pick up a new card, and cards that get instants and sorceries back are in high demand a lot of the time. They're really, really good.
Well, that's why I play green. I can just always get whatever I want back.
Well, that helps. You just don't have as many options. But yeah.
This is a classic staple for Izzet, just for the fact that it's always using sorceries and instants. And this is, in fact, something that can get cheated into play, cost reduction, totally free even.
Yeah, I love this card so much. And I feel like not enough people use it.
Every time I played a Mizzix deck, that is an Izzet deck, but I'm saying Mizzix. That one always ties me up. But this is something that you always see in there, because once you think you finish something where it's like, all right, they finally have taken their extra turns, or they've cyclonicked me and that's out of the way. This now comes back in there and that gives them one option of doing it again, but an additional. It's just, I respect the card. I just hate seeing it because I already know I'm just going to be in for another round or two of torture.
You don't like those decks.
Nah, I'd rather see something new and flashy as opposed to be like, all right, let's do this round again. All right, let's do it one more time. All right, you're going to do it a third time? Just please, just tell me now.
Hey, if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
It was broke. But anyway, moving away from your number 5 into my number 4.
Yeah, so what is number 4
Number
here?
4 is something that we typically don't see. It's actually a flip card. It's the first side is called Afflicted Deserter. It costs 4 mana, 3 and a red for a human werewolf with a 3/2 body that has the traditional kind of effect that most werewolves have, which is at the beginning of each upkeep, if no spells were cast last turn, transform this. And which means that you just kind of exile and you flip it over as it comes back into the field. Or, sorry, you exile it, it comes back onto the field flipped over. And in this case, it would be Werewolf Ransacker, which is a werewolf which is having a 5/4 body that reads, when this creature transforms into this card, you may destroy target artifact. If that artifact is put into the graveyard this way, this card deals 3 damage to artifacts to the artifact's controller. Lastly, it also has the traditional werewolf effect, if you're still listening after this entire monologue, is at the beginning of each upkeep, if a player casts 2 or more spells, transform it back into the human side. Hi! So this is really interesting and cool because I've never really seen too much werewolf play. They've had a werewolf commander come out, but it's kind of lackluster.
There's a reason for that. I'll save my diatribe for later.
Oh, we'll hit that. But the reason why I like it, this is something that is continual destruction of a type that we see very commonly thrown throughout Magic, artifacts. Now, it isn't just destruction of an artifact, it's artifact and damage.
You don't see that very often.
Or if you do, it's through some sort of combat or combo or something else altogether. Yeah. This is something that if you have nothing that's going on, go ahead, play nothing. You won't be hurt for it because you're going to go ahead and get a creature that's even stronger that they now have to deal with. It is a werewolf, so tribes can work with that. So it means while it's flipped, you can get a better board presence. However, on the other side, it is a human. So when it isn't a werewolf, you might even get better synergies because humans are a huge tribe as well. So this is something that just kind of, it doesn't need to take much to get value out of it. And again, you can choose to play nothing and hold back red spot removal like Lightning Bolt or something like that to go ahead and make it so this thing can activate and then take them out on their turns, which is something you see pretty commonly.
Well, the idea of artifact destruction with damage, Tuk Tuk Scrapper is a card that I often debate putting into any deck. It's an ally card, and the idea is when you play it, you destroy an artifact, you do damage equal to the number of allies you control. I debate playing that card even if I'm not playing any other allies, just because destroying an artifact plus 1 damage for 4 mana and a body seems like a really good deal to me.
Yeah.
So I always debate about playing that card. Now, werewolves. I want to like werewolves, but I have a lot of issues with them. I won't go into
away
all
from the
of them.
werewolf part.
I know. I won't go into all of them, but like I've said before, and I'll say it again, I'm all about consistency. Werewolves are the antithesis of consistent, and as it stands so far, they do not have enough good, and I phrase good support to make them a playable tribe.
They need werewolf-specific tribal support,
they do.
not the generic stuff.
Yeah, specifically things to keep them from transforming as long as possible. Because once they flip into the wolf side is inevitably better than the human side, so you want them to stay that way. But anyway, that aside, the issue I have with this one in particular is that his human side literally does nothing, which is really disappointing.
I agree. Well, honestly, I'd say, what is it? The best werewolf is the green one that we've seen printed more recently than the others?
There's a couple. I don't know. There's Huntmaster of the Fells is a great one, which we'll talk about later. Mayor of Averbrook is probably the best monocolored werewolf. Yeah,
but it has mono. You can't
best,
guess it.
well, the best ones are the ones with both sides are good. This is not one of those.
This is not truly one of those. I agree with that. But even as a standalone, 3/2 for 4 mana, that isn't great. It really doesn't pass a vanilla test, even with the flip.
No.
However, when it does flip, 5/4 damage and you're killing something that's a permanent.
I mean, yeah, artifact
that's
destruction.
great for 4 mana.
And like it fills a necessary niche in the strategy, a permanent destruction, which is good. But like I said, I think this is going to be an integral player at some point in whatever werewolf deck ends up being a thing.
Yes.
But it needs more good support desperately.
Well, and again, red also is very keen on destroying artifacts. And again, red also doesn't have the best form of ramp. It has ritual spells, which can give it mana for a turn, but it's not cranking out lands. It's not tutoring for lands. So if you have something, I don't know, like any deck that just kind of flows onto the field and then peters out, Well, what are you getting? This can inherently get you more of that value. This is good at any deck that's running red, any deck that needs artifact removal. And again, if you like to reserve your hand, like, I don't know, an Izzet deck even likes to hold back and play stuff on an opponent's turn. You play this, all right, it'll flip. You'll have a bigger chump blocker. You destroy something of theirs. Now you get counter spells too.
Yeah.
And again, the only thing you have to truly worry about is flipping it back over to get the effect once again.
Right. One thing I will say, though, is that, setting Commander aside, Wolves in 60 card, like casual around the table, it's not competitive probably, but if you're just looking for a good aggro deck to play
This
with
can
your
work with
friends,
that.
60 card Wolves is terrifying. I have played against those decks before. They will obliterate you so fast you won't even know what happened. So, yeah, it's
Unless
pretty
you're
good.
Liam Neeson, because we've seen that movie. He can take on a whole pack of wolves.
Yeah.
But anyway, moving away from my wolf into your, again, blue card.
Yes, again, you know me. But it's a good one. Number 4 on my list here is called Secrets of the Dead. And it's an enchantment this time that costs 3 to cast. Now, whenever you cast a spell from your graveyard, draw a card. Very simple, very straightforward effect. Something that I would actually like to play a lot more, but I haven't so far. But there are plenty of places where you can and should play this. It seems kind of weird whenever you cast a spell from a graveyard. When does that ever happen?
Yeah, it seems kind of niche.
But think about it. I mean, there are a lot of ways you can do that. Flashback being the most obvious one, obviously. And then there's even new abilities that can do this. Retrace from the Shadowmoor block is casting from the graveyard. Jumpstart from Guilds of Ravnica is from the graveyard. There are more too. The Unearth doesn't really count, so let's set that aside.
Eternalize wouldn't work.
Yeah,
either with that.
Right, exactly. So there are some things that absolutely 100% work with this, especially Jumpstart, where it basically pays for itself. Which is awesome.
The only commander I could think of is Horde of Notions, because that inherently is a cast for paying skills.
Yes, it is. Yeah.
But any others?
Well, it might be good in a Sidisi deck. You got a lot of zombies that can cast themselves from the graveyard, like Gravecrawler, for example. Gisa and Geralf and Liliana, Untouched by Death, let you cast zombies from the graveyard.
If you can have a commander that has some sort of form of recursion in the fact that it's casting, yes, 100%. This wouldn't be good in, Cedric... Not Cedric the Entertainer.
Cedrus, the Trader, yeah.
The Trader King. Way different guy.
Yeah, and also, if there are also Storm decks like Cast Dissident Mage.
That would work too.
Yeah, if you just play a lot of spells from your graveyard, you can draw a bunch of cards with this.
Or the new Muldrotha, technically, as well.
Exactly, yeah. There are definitely places that this belongs. And I honestly would like a deck where I do this consistently enough to play it, so... It's good. It's a good card.
It can be dead, though, because, again, you need to have that stuff set up. For 3 mana, this can come out early, and then it probably won't get hit. So you probably won't be getting this value until later when you have stuff. Now, again, you have to be set up for that to be working. Otherwise, you'd spent 3 mana to do nothing. I'd almost rather a Rhystic Study, but, again, comparing anything to Rhystic Study is not easy.
Yeah, well, and I would rather be in control of the thing that is happening, you know.
True.
But... Basically, being able to draw a card whenever you cast a spell is so good.
Well, it's niche. I wouldn't say it's horrible. It's definitely worth an uncommon card placing, and they gave it that.
Well, that was the best thing to do in draft when this was a thing, was play the Burning Vengeance Secrets of the Dead deck, where basically you get those 2 enchantments, load up on all the flashback cards you can, and just basically wait people out of the game.
That's hilarious.
Well, yeah, Burning Vengeance is an enchantment that does 2 damage whenever you cast something from your graveyard. That was like the best thing to do in the Strad draft. I drafted that deck many times.
I'm glad I wasn't even in this game at that point. But anyway, moving on to number 3. I'm going to stay in the roundhouse of black for this one. It is called Fiend of the Shadows. Bum, bum, bum. Yeah, it's got that mystical name right there. It costs 5 mana, 3 generic, and double black for a vampire wizard with a 3/3 body. Now, this creature has evasion in the form of flying, and it has 2 additional effects. The first one being, whenever this creature deals combat damage to a player, that player exiles a card from his or her hand. You may play that card as long as it remains exiled. Secondly, sacrifice a human, regenerate this creature. So right here we have forms of evasion, we have forms of protection, and also we have ways of giving you resources, which is always very strong. It's 5 mana, 3/3 body. I'd like to see it a little bit more bumped up, but it's in tribes that matter. Vampires are able to boost and give counters. Wizards are also able to give forms of evasion or protection or anything else like that. So it seems kind of practical. Now again, also, as long as the card's exiled, you can play it. You don't need this creature out there for that, which is very important as well, because if you go ahead and you hit something that's big, you can't cast it that turn. All right, wait. The only thing is if you hit a land, and I don't know truly if it is if the player chooses the card, so it could just be a land.
Yes, the controller will always choose in this case. So if they but since it says play that card, you can play lands that you steal with
all right,
this.
it's not cast. I take it back.
Right.
So yeah, it seems interesting in the realm. And again, if you're using a discard deck, I feel like this could be really good because again, they're losing stuff and they're going to try to save what they can if it's targeted discard and they get the choice as opposed to random discard. So if they're holding back the stuff that they want to keep, you're going to get something good from it.
Yeah, however, you have to keep in mind, this is not the fun kind of stealing. You actually have to pay for the cost of the card. Cost, like color and all.
But it is exiled, and it's not in the grave. The fact that it's exiled means that they can't do some sort of shenanigans to get it back, and a lot of decks have those shenanigans. Silly shenanigans.
Yeah, and this is absolutely an interesting card, Stu, but it's just kind of odd. I've never really found a great place where I want to play this because the whole sacrifice to regenerate thing is great in theory, but where are you going to play a lot of humans alongside a vampire? I don't really know.
Well, we do
that doesn't make sense.
What's the new spirits that we end up getting now with the
the afterlife thing?
Afterlife
well,
mechanic.
that certainly works, but again, tying them together with a theme doesn't really work.
You might not get the human regeneration, and that is true. You might have a couple cards that are thrown in there that are human, and you might get the effects here and there. But again, that's not the reason it's in here. It's evasive, it hurts your opponent in more ways than one, and gives you an advantage in more ways than one.
I also have another question for you. Would you rather have something like this, or would you rather have, Night Veil, Spectre, or Thief of Sanity cards that steal from the top of the deck rather than from the hand? Personally, I would choose the other two over this one. I mean, as much as I like the idea of taking things out of your opponent's hand, in terms of this card, at least, they have the control over it. Whereas if you steal from their deck, you have all the control.
There's two scenarios in which one will be more valuable than the other. So if they go ahead and they play Tutor where it goes to the top of the deck, something like a Worldly Tutor and Enlightened Tutor, they aren't going to want to play that unless they know they can get that to their hand. Right. So you're inherently losing a card in their hand at the moment because you can always get what they want.
Right.
However, if they don't have something like that, you'd rather ruin their options and lower what they're doing. You're strangling what they can play. And that whole play is made into a whole archetype. This card is a deck structure that exists in Commander and out.
Yeah.
So I'd rather it be the hand more often than not. I'd rather exhaust them to top decking.
Well, there is also, if they don't have a hand, this card does nothing. So
it doesn't do anything, but there's 4 people playing.
Yeah, so I don't know. It's an interesting debate. I personally would not choose this over something like Thief of Sanity, which is just like one of my favorite cards ever now. So
well, we'll leave it up to you guys. We'll do a poll, be right above my head. Thief of Sanity, Fiend of Shadows.
Yeah,
Let us know.
It's an interesting debate.
Team Stu,
Certainly.
Team Kyle, Team Kyle, Team Stu. So let us know. We'll run a poll, see how it goes. But moving on to your number 3.
Yes, so speaking of stealing things, number 3 on my list is Havengul Lich. This is a blue and black zombie wizard. Costs 5 to play. Is a 4/4, not bad. Also, its ability costs only 1 mana. You can cast target creature card from a graveyard this turn. When you cast that card this turn, Havengul Lich gains all activated abilities of that card until end of turn. How sweet is this? I love this guy.
Well, only thing I don't like is black and blue zombies. I just hate that they get beat up.
Yeah, well, black and blue zombies really is a great deck.
It's a very
honestly.
strong tribe. It really, and wizards. It's a zombie wizard.
Yeah.
You see wizards and zombies in these colors galore.
Definitely. And yeah,
especially Dimir.
Right. Not only is it a relevant tribe, 2 of them anyway, and heavyweight stats make this thing really good, but this ability is just bonkers. Like, for 1 mana, yes, you do have to pay the full cost, including color, of the card you're casting from the graveyard. I know that. +1 for the ability. But still, being able to take from anybody's graveyard and just play a creature straight out of the grave is amazing. You could get ETBs with it. You can get a giant, powerful creature that can end the game. There's a lot of reasons why this is really good.
You know what this would go really well in?
What?
A Send Triplets deck.
Oh, yeah, totally.
Because Send Triplets is all about making 5-colored mana, so inherently you would have the access that you would need to be able to get whatever you want with whatever activate ability, like in pairs.
If you're just going with a theme of like taking other people's cards, yeah, certainly this card is a great one for that. Honestly, the only creature that does this better than this is the Scarab God. But then again, Scarab God is the Scarab God. You can't get any better than that.
Yeah, well, that's a mythic to mythic comparison right there. You're on a train with mythics, I've noticed.
Yeah, I usually end up choosing a lot of mythics and hidden gems, I've noticed, but it's because they're so cool. But anyway, having Go Lich is really, really great. The only downside of this card is the whole taking activated abilities thing. I have pretty much never had that be a thing with this card. I've never gotten a useful activated ability, mostly because I'm casting giant fatties out of people's graveyards, because why not?
Well, the one thing that's really good about this is, like, this is a clone, but just for effects. So it's like an inverse duplicate.
Yeah.
So for that effect, you can go ahead and make it so where something's like when this does damage to a player, it does something. It has trample, but it's only like a 1/1 or a 2/2. This will still be a 4/4. So you can use that to your advantage, and I would personally want to use that to my advantage. Again, you don't know what your opponents are going to have, but you could run cards like that in your deck to make it so that that is a huge advantage. And like you're saying with the activated abilities, yeah, ETBs, this thing will just be the same thing inherently with the same effect over and over again. But if you get something with a really great tap effect, or like, Mother of Runes? You go ahead, you take that from them. That's really powerful, because you now have 2 creatures that can protect each other now, and then keep it going.
It only lasts 1 turn, but still, yeah, not bad.
Not bad at all.
Yeah, the only thing with this is I would probably not use this card. I actually cut this out long ago from my Sidisi deck because I would just, well, one, you'd rather have the Scarab God, but that's beside the point. But also the fact that I don't really believe in running this card unless your deck is actively focused on taking from other people. Because if you're just focused on your own graveyard, there are like a million better, more efficient ways you can get your own creatures
You
back.
can do it for a lower mana cost for one. But yeah, if you're going for 5-colored, and I think Send Triplets would be a great example of that. Because it's in those colors. It is a wizard, even though that is an artifact wizard, not a zombie wizard, but it just, it's got good flavor. I've never actually seen that card. I've never actually seen it played on me either. I would love to see that. I actually might even use it for my Send Triplets. I'm not sure.
Go ahead. I have like 3 of them. Take your pick.
Thanks. This is a good episode we're shooting now. Now, moving on to number 2. I'm going to move on to a card that's going to make Kyle twitch. It is called Alpha Brawl. This is a red sorcery that has a whopping 8 mana cost, 6 generic, and double red. And it reads, target creature an opponent controls deals damage equal to its power to each other creature that player controls. Then each of those creatures deal damage equal to its power to that creature. So
it's a board wipe.
It's a board wipe in red on 1 player. So it's kind of like an Ingarrick's Wake as a sense. And the reason I like it, now you're going to say Blasphemous Act, and Blasphemous Act is without a doubt the best board wipe in red. And Chain Reaction, I'd say, is probably the second best board wipe in red.
Pretty much, yeah.
Now, the reason this one's good is this is more than just a board wipe. This can also give you game in the same fact that those can. If you have Repercussion on the field, this can go ahead and take that out. If you have any form of damage doubling, which red has in pairs.
I didn't even think about Repercussion.
This goes ahead and does it. Repercussion can go ahead and effectively take 1 player out. Now again, if you have Repercussion out, you don't want Blasphemous Act, because you can kill yourself.
I've done that before. It's not
Or it
fun.
ties the game and people are like, that was lame. Nothing even happened really inherently. But this can inherently just totally murder 1 player. And in fact, this game should just say murder player if Repercussion's on the field. And again, it depends on what they have. If they have a whole big token army, this wipes that out. If they just have 1 big guy and another big guy, this wipes that out too. It's just different. You don't really hear of big red board wipes. Usually it's all damage based in the fact where it's like this is 3 damage or this is 2 or whatever. It keeps the red flair of just it is damage based, but the variable change, it changes perfectly for what you want, because at this point in the game, how big are the creatures going to be for 8 mana?
Yeah, but I don't know. I think it's interesting for sure, but there's just way too many situations where I would rather not have a situational card like this, and it might not do anything. You know,
But
I
this
don't
can be
know.
cheated out. This can be utilized as a win con. It's not just a board wipe. It could be a potential win con. So it does something more that Wrath of God doesn't.
Yeah, I suppose so. So it's interesting. I don't know that I'd ever use it, but I don't know if I could really fault you
I'm
for
not sold
using
on it being as like a red staple. I'm not saying
Hmm.
that by anything. But if you are an effect damage kind of deck, you'd want this.
Yeah, also, 8 man is a freaking lot for something like this. It really is.
I mean, let's just go ahead. We'll say we're using the Snowlands. We're using the Lens. All right, we can get there pretty quick. Also, you got Seed Song, Mana Geyser.
yeah, I know, but I don't know. Maybe. I'm not going to completely
It's
write
just
it
something
off.
I just have never seen as a red board wipe, honestly. That's
No,
no
it's
ifs, ands, or
interesting.
buts, but that's it. But all right, you're number 2, Kyle. What's better than this?
I am. Well, going on to number 2, this is probably the best land in the set, in my opinion. Vault of the Archangel. Yes, this card is wonderful.
All right.
Yeah.
This is better.
Well, this costs, first of all, it's a specialty land that just taps for 1 generic colorless, which is fine. But the additional ability is for tapping 2, a black, and a white for 4 total. Creatures you control gain Death Touch and Lifelink until the end of the turn. Now, that is a really nice, potent combination. And for 4 mana, for all your creatures, I'd say that's a bargain.
Yeah, it is really good. There's a whole cycle of these lands that work for the tribes. I didn't choose them just because I thought they were a little bit more on the well-known side. That's why I went for Haunted Fengraf, which was in part 1. But this is great. This is just like literally what I was saying. This is a board wipe inherently. If they attack and go wide.
Yeah, I mean, it's good. It's good offensively because nobody will want to block your creatures. It's good defensively because nobody will want to attack you. And that's just the Death Touch. The Lifelink is just icing on the cake, where if you're way behind, this can pull you ahead. If you're ahead,
Or give you gain.
this gives you even more. This puts you even more ahead. This is definitely the best land in this entire cycle.
Well, and there's so many cards that you see in Commander where it's like, all right, if your life is a little bit over this, or you pay this much life, you could totally take a player out. And black and white are all about that. What is that guild called again? I always forget.
Orzhov.
Orzhov. The Orzhov combination is literally all about you lose life, I'll gain life. It's all about
Right.
debt and payment.
But you don't normally see Orzhov doing a whole lot of aggro, so usually you see them combined with maybe combined with red or something like that to have a little bit more aggressive power.
No, you got spirit tokens, you got zombie tokens.
You could,
can use
you
different
could. You
engines.
just don't see it that often. But
But
yeah,
there's one of these in every color. Like we have it in blue. Not
yeah.
blue,
There's a black green one.
Black green one,
there's
which
a
is
blue
another
black
famous
one. Yeah, the Drown Yard. There's a bunch of them.
and they're all very good. And once they hit, people always take note. These are, I'd say, almost worth more than being a rare. That whole cycle is so versatile for what those colors
Yeah,
do.
well, this card was worth quite a lot of money up to a certain point. So yeah.
they've dropped drastically. But I mean, again, if they don't get reprinted for a while, they'll be going up.
Yeah, definitely.
But moving on to my number 1, mine's not a land. Mine is actually going to be another red card, and this is one I just can't help but love. It's called Pure Heart Wolf. It has 3 mana for its cost, double generic and red. I say double generic a lot. It is a wolf creature with a 1/1 body, and when this card attacks, each creature you control can't be blocked this turn except by 2 or more creatures. Secondly, it has Undying, which we've gone over before, but once it dies, it comes back with a +1/1 counter on it. Take this in for a second. This is an uncommon that goes ahead and gives a blanket effect for all your creatures to pretty much pierce through and deal damage. And if they do get blocked, all the other stuff is going to go on and get hit. This is a staple for a lot of things in red, just for the ones that go token wide. It's not uncommon to see this in a goblin deck, just for being able to go ahead and make it so that they can go ahead and get through. Alesha, who smiles at death, this is another staple for it because it pulls it back from the graveyard and makes it so that that creature and Alesha are now attacking. So with the other player who's getting attacked, it's like, oh, I am not nervous. Well, they get a little bit more.
Yeah, I almost put this card on my list, but the only reason I left it off was because I thought the focus where it's good was just too narrow even for me to justify. However, I will say I use this to great effect in my mono red Grenzo deck, where giving things
Great
menace,
spot.
because that's exactly what this is, gives everything menace, is potentially very, very good. And a lot of time people scoff at the menace ability, and they're like, well, it can only be blocked by 2 or more creatures. That's not a big deal. Well, it isn't until you actually see it in action. There's 10 creatures attacking you, and they all need to be blocked by 2, and then you're like, oh crap, this is real.
Yeah, I only have 3
So,
guys. This isn't working. Yeah, or they don't want to block you because they have some other effect. It's just so good. Even though it's a 1/1, again, if it dies, it comes back as a 2/2, which is great. It's not the other way around. It doesn't die as a 2/2 and come back as a 1/1, which I think almost gives a little bit more value.
Oh yeah, Undying is kind of.
It's a very
if you think about it, it's kind of a broken effect, but whatever.
But it's 3 mana. It's good at any point in the game. Early, mid, late, if you're behind, if you're ahead. It's just so well costed. And it's like almost having like Old Faithful. It's Balto. Look at the card. It literally is Balto on the card, just giving you that pierce and be like, yeah, I got this.
It is pretty solid. I think a lot of times this can seem weak and situational, but in the right deck, red, go wide, token-based deck, this is exactly what you need for it to be powerful.
Any tribe that's using red, honestly. Like, you throw it in Boros. Boros is all about its attacks. All right, only helps. Go into, well, not blue-red, because blue-red doesn't do that, but Gruul. Gruul would love this
that works too.
Get the big guys to swing on in. They have to double block it, but they're losing 2 creatures now. They can't weather that storm. It's just such a good card. You don't see it played too often. It's in niche decks, but it really could be played more.
I think it could, for sure, but now my next card, I mean, I feel like this is not going to be any surprise to anyone who really plays this game.
If I know you, I think I know what it is. I saw it. I was like, I didn't choose it just so you could choose it. Yeah. Actually, I almost chose it so it'd be number 10 just so you couldn't
really?
say it. Oh, I wouldn't do that to you yet.
All right, so getting on with it. Number 1 for me is also a red card. You'll definitely recognize it. Who am I kidding?
Does it
Faithless Looting.
Yeah, it costs 1 mana to go with it.
It costs 1 mana. It's a sorcery, and like I said, red sorcery that costs 1 mana. And it's very simple. Draw 2 cards, discard 2 cards. Also, flashback 3. This is pretty much hands down the best card in the set, and you cannot argue that with me.
Well, I could, but I know why it's good, so I won't.
Because it's, like, this is just one of those cards, if I am playing red, no matter where, if it's 60 cards, if it's commander, no matter where it is, if I am playing red, I am playing this card, and that's not even a question, because red does not have very good card draw historically. This is about as good as it gets. Draw 2, discard 2 is a pretty good ratio. You're not really losing anything. Exactly. Yeah. Plus, it has flashback. You can do this again. This is absolutely the best draw red has ever gotten.
Yeah, you think about it and you're like, all right, why do I want to lose 2 if you've just gotten into Magic? Honestly, optimizing your hand, even if you're losing something, you're like, this is good, but if I can't use it, how good is it? So taking out stuff that's just kind of dead, it's trimming the fat pretty much. And I've had many times where I've been like, all right, I have 2 lands in my hand, I play 1 for turn, next turn I draw another land, I'm like, I'm dumping these. Let me just go ahead, I'll pay the cost, I have all this mana, it's late in the game, let me draw 2 cards, and it can be something that's game-changing, or at that point I'm like, there's nothing else I can do anymore. You accept your fate.
Yeah, as you said with the Wolf, this is good at pretty much any point in the game, really. It can turn things around for you in a big way. The only time this kind of sucks is if you have only 2 cards in your hand, so then you're not getting to keep anything. No cards in your hand, I suppose. So then if you draw 2, discard 2, it doesn't really do anything. But you're not even taking into account the decks that want actively to discard their cards to the graveyard.
Madness.
Yeah, exactly. So many different things, and it took like more than 5 years for this card to catch on competitively, but it finally has. And now it's everybody and their brother is playing this in competitive Magic. So
what about their sisters?
Them too, probably. Oh. But yeah, it took a while for it to catch on, but now it's a staple of the modern format and even older formats, and you can tell why. It's just good, and I don't know why it took this long.
It's good value. Good value across the board. Mana cost, versatility, hand advantage, graveyard advantage.
Yeah.
If
you're a budget player, do yourself a favor and pick up about 8 of these, because it won't cost you any money at all.
You only need 4 of them.
Well, I mean, it depends on how many decks you want to build, but still, pick yourself up at about as many of these as you can, because it will cost you nothing, and you will always be happy that you have it, pretty much.
I agree. Well, maybe not 8, but I'll agree a little bit. But that is going to conclude the finale of our hidden gems from Dark Ascension. Yes. And be sure to let us know what you think. You can reach out to us at, remember, our new name is The Card Pool on our social media. It's going to be at Reddit, Tapped Out.
Facebook, Twitter, we're on all of them. You can also always email us the old school way at mtgthecardpool. We kept that one the same.
I have to update that one. We'll see. But until then, I'm Stu.
And I'm Kyle. And we'll
see you next time at the card pool.